All right, welcome back from the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Thursday, June 30th, 2022. If you like the content, give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, or come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Well, anyways, it's official. We're in a recession. According to the Atlanta Fed, revised Q2 GDP data showed negative growth, and that puts us in a recession here. Markets took that as a positive initially. 3 rate cuts were priced in the market, and obviously that's a good thing for equity markets. So we had a nice, for the first time, we had a gap down, and we've been saying, like, hey, we're looking for this gap down. I want a gap down and then a V shape to actually put in a bottom. Every time that we've had these nice little rallies, it's always been on a gap up, and I always, markets don't bottom on gap ups, they bottom on gap downs. And we've been looking for that. We got it, got some nice bullish consolidation, and then it failed. So we had a rollover. I told you guys on Tuesday after this sell-off, the sentiment just got, myself included, got a little too bullish in the near term. And that's probably why we couldn't break out. Even the bears were kind of agreeing that, oh yeah, we're going to have a rally here to short. And, we sold off here. And now we're kind of coming back up, and we tried to put in a pivot. I told you guys around this 375 area, 373 is where I was looking potentially for those support areas, and then 370. And we got there. We got right to that support level 373 today. Bounced right off of it, V shape, and now we're kind of fading here. We still could put in an hourly higher low, but not a good look. And I'd have to imagine, first of all, I don't think this changes anything. I'm still expecting a pivot low this week, if not by early next week. And again, like I was just saying, sentiment at this point, I'd imagine it's pretty bearish. I mean, we had the best chance imaginable to put in a pivot low today. I mean, this was a golden opportunity here. You had the rate cuts, the rate cut chatter, which is, positive news for once. Like we talked about, the market hasn't had any positive news. You went right into a 618, you filled the gap. You had a V shape after a gap down. I mean, everything was set up for a rally here, and we're starting to fade. So, I know it seems kind of odd, but believe it or not, almost this price action so bearish, it's almost bullish, because I think there was just too many bulls kind of looking at this, this low here and saying, okay, we got to have a summer rally, we got to have a counter trend rally. Could just be one more last shakeout here. We also have end of quarter rebalancing going on today. So there is some, there could be some shenanigans going on as far as that's concerned. Wouldn't surprise me tomorrow if this move is completely negated by a gap up or something like that. I'm not saying that happens, but it's definitely a possibility. And really, even if we do have a bearish close today, all that really changes is that we probably go down and test 370 on the spiders. And I think that probably holds. I'll go on record saying that right now. But in any case, we saw that move Tuesday, that reversal. So we're going to have to test lower prices. You close below this green bar, and we're doing that. Overall, it doesn't change the big picture in my book. I still think that we are pretty much set up here for a summer rally. And it looks to me like this little pullback is a shakeout. So we'll see what we got. It could easily be wrong here, but in any case, relatively neutral. This market's been tough. It's so far a pretty neutral day. Neutral to negative. We can't really get a bias here. We had a nice V shape, so we had a bear trap in the morning and then a bull trap in the afternoon. Let's see if they trap the bears again in the afternoon. We do have a chance to put an hourly higher low. That would be interesting if we really did that and closed up at the highs of the day. I wouldn't rule anything out here, but as always, just be careful in this market. Don't overload yourself one way or the other here. Let's take a look at the triple Qs. Some of the big tech stocks actually performing okay here. So triple Qs down 1.4. So it is leading the market lower here. But you take a look at Apple. Apple's decently off the lows. Nice little pivot low candle there. Potentially a higher low in place. Google, take a look at the series of higher lows on the daily. Tesla. We talked about these kind of like WV patterns. This could be a V here, setting up. So the setup is there. It's just a matter of execution. And again, I still think that going into that 4th of July seasonality, it's very likely that we get a reversal next week, especially with the setup here. I'm just really in that camp right now. And again, until proven otherwise, until we take out the lows, that's kind of be sort of my bias here. But in any case, triple Qs, IWM here, this is actually a little bit concerning. So you do have this level here, and today is the last day of the month, so this will be a monthly close. Now this trend line, you could argue it's not, perfectly drawn on there or exact, but as it currently stands, we are below that, and we're below this pivot high here on the monthly. So unless we really ramp up here in the next 30 minutes, that would be a monthly close below that. It's fractional, but it's still a monthly close. And again, there's margin for error on that trend line. There's always that case. It's a trend line that goes back many years. But the pivot high itself is at 170.56. So that would be the previous level there on the Russell. But again, we talked about this, the Russell has outperformed a little bit lately, which is a decent sign. And another thing that's outperformed, we're doing okay at least, is HYG. HYG is actually scratching the flat line. So again, we've been looking at high yield debt over the last couple of months, and it has been a bit of a leading indicator. I've mentioned that many times. For instance, the last month, May 24th, this was your surge here on HYG. And this was the May 24th candle on the spiders before we had that surge. So HYG did lead the market higher a little bit. So it could be something, could be nothing, but it is holding the flat line there, and it's holding up okay. And bonds getting a bid here is at least kind of neutralizing. I mean, it's not a great thing because you have recession talk, but it's also neutralizing that one-sided yield trade, which the market does like. And it's also at least pricing in rate cuts. So let's talk about yields here. PNX. I told you guys if we take out these pivots here, we're probably going to be headed back to fill that gap there at 2 points. We'll call it 2.75 on the 10-year. Looks like that will be the case here. 30-year as well. You may have a little pit stop here at the 50 moving average, but you're probably going to get a move back to this 2.97, 2.25, somewhere in that area, maybe a little bit lower. Do expect yields to do some backing and filling here. And, overall, that could give the market a lift. And that could be the catalyst for a summer rally. I mean, if we're talking about rate cuts being priced in, I mean, that's as good of a, macro indicator you're going to get for a summer rally, for some type of a bull move. I mean, this market has had no good news to rally on in a very long time. The last time that it had good news was the Fed isn't going to raise as much. And that's not even good news. It's just less bad news. So could be something the market get a shot in the arm. Take a look at the bid here on the spiders here. Lots of volume coming in the next 10 minutes. And I told you, end of quarter shenanigans. This stuff is to be expected here. So we could get a shakeout. In any case, we talked about yields here. Let's flip over. So semis down 1.1%, making a new low here, but holding the double bottom. So we'll see what it does. Does look like it's going to hold that double bottom for now. It has been a weak sector, but again, could be a little bit of a shakeout. AMD got really close to that 74 level I showed you guys the other day. Take a look at the weekly. That is a really strong support level there for AMD. So we'll see if that can hold. NVIDIA is into a really good level as well. I showed you guys this. Now look at these support zones here on NVIDIA. That blue trend line got very close to it. Didn't quite get there. Then we have Micron reporting after the bell here. This is flattish to negative right now. We'll see what that does. Maybe that can give tech a lift if they can beat on earnings. Let's take a look here at IGV. So again, IGV, little pivot candle, filled that gap. And again, another WV type setup here. So IGV remains strong. We'll see if that can hold on tomorrow. Let's take a look at Bio. Biotech, again, holding onto an inside bar here. So again, there's still pockets of strength in this market. There's still things that are putting on higher lows, or again, W patterns with a possible V setup. So again, biotech looking okay here. Dow Transport's a weak lagging sector. Dipped down below this green bar low, but it's holding it. It's going to hold that on a closing basis. So we'll give it at least a little bit of a near-term upside bias for a weak equity. But yeah, coming off the lows, just like everything else, we are still bidding a little bit here as we get into the final half hour here. Let's take a look. We'll see what we get. So stalling out at that 50 moving average. But in any case here, so transports, home builders here. Again, possible pivot low here on XHB. Same thing with ITB. So, potentially just a down and then an up pullback pattern there. VNQ, again, tested this red bar high again. That was your breakout level. And now you're back testing that, getting a bit off of that. So it's holding up for now. We'll see what we get tomorrow here. FINS, XLF. Again, testing that green bar low here. You do have some higher lows, and you're holding that green bar low for now. So Again, we'll just leave it at that. Financials have been a little bit weaker. With bonds rallying a little bit, it's tougher for those spreads, the banks to get, make money on those spreads. But again, we've noted that XBD, the broker dealers, the investment banks have been holding up a little bit better. And again, pretty good test candle there on XBD today. And that's actually not a terrible close on XBD. Anywhere up in this range, that's not a bad look there on XBD. So investment banks holding up a little bit better than the money center banks. And again, we'll let the market tell us a little bit more in the coming days. Anyways, crude here. So energy fading pretty hard again. Would have really liked to get it up closer to that 115 handle. Was looking for a short with an SCO here. Just didn't quite get there. But it did, follow through on the downside from that sell-off today. Again, we got to watch this pivot here at 101.53. If that gets taken out, we are, in my book, officially in corrective mode. But we'll see what we get tomorrow on crude. Nice pullback, though. XLE, again, gapping down. So now back below both of these trend lines. And we could probably extend this out now. So, basically, right on that trend line. Actually, no, just below that trend line now. But a little zigzag down. Again, losing this pivot. This 200 moving average will be a pit stop, but it's minor at this point. But XLE does have lower to go. Energy does have lower to go, but doesn't mean it's going to go down in a straight line. XOP here, again, we talked about that rejection at that 100. Now ping-ponging here between the 200 and the 100. But again, a little bit of a fade there in energy. And again, they just got overbought. Too much of a crowded trade, and this is just what happens here. OIH negative as well, and Nat Gas, the big loser on the day, was down about 15% at one point, got down to 550. So I do like this level a lot for a bounce here. I still think it could get down to $5, but this should get a good bounce here. I would have liked it a lot more if we had pierced 6 on the way down. We should have had, if we had pierced 6 on the way down and got down to maybe 595, 590, the chances of getting back up to 7 would have been a lot better, but we stalled out at, 680, what was the high? 683 here. Didn't quite get through this red bar, and, it was able to knife right through that $6 handle on the way down because you basically kissed it the first time. So basically testing that 200 moving average, just getting a nice bounce. It had a big sell-off into the COMEX close with a lot of volume, so maybe some short-term capitulation here for Nat Gas. We'll see what we get tomorrow. But wickedly oversold here. Take a look here at the weekly. Yeah, big move on Nat Gas down, right down to that 50-week moving average there. So there's good support. This was your pivot high, 50-week moving average. It should be a good level there for Natty for some type of a relief bounce. It is very oversold in the short term as well. Anyways, dollar index here. So, it got above this little series of lower highs. We got a pop and then kind of getting rejected here again. Won't make too much out of the dollar right now. It's in a strong uptrend. It is overbought, but you got to respect it at this point. Gold here continuing to hold up. It has faded a little bit, basically flirting with these pivots here, but considering the strength in the dollar, gold's actually holding up pretty okay. Again, the big issue I have with it is this weekly inside bar, and this could continue to play out. It does look like it wants to roll over a little bit, so gold could have some lower prices here in the near term. And GDX also putting in 52-week lows today. Now, this is getting close to a pretty good support level, so stay tuned for this one. This is something I'm very interested in. Same thing with the GDXJ, but in the short term, this is not a good sign for the precious metals market. Take a look at SILJ there, down 3% as well. SIL also down 3 1/4 or 3 1/3 rather on the day there. So getting hit pretty hard here are the miners. Silver, new 52-week lows there. This should have some support at 19, but again, you got that weekly inside bar, and that's playing out. So if it can't get back above this pivot by tomorrow's close, this could have some lower prices in the future here. And again, recession talk, it's not going to be good for industrial demand. We talked about platinum. I said this has to go lower. That is breaking down as well. Palladium, it's holding up okay. Basically just stuck in this range here. But copper, we've talked about how weak copper is, and Dr. Copper is a good economic indicator. This one has been weak as well. You had a nice little tail candle here, but you couldn't get any sort of counter trend bounce in play. Really kind of just a dead cat bounce, and now stuck in the lower end of this range. So Not a good look here for the metals in the near term, but I do think the miners are getting attractive here. I got to work out the numbers a little bit more on some of those levels, but if you're interested in that, come find me on carnivoretrades.com. We will be trading them if those numbers hit. But in any case, copper in a weak position here, technically. Now let's flip over here to Bitcoin. So again, Bitcoin again continues to roll over. You know, what can you say? It's just, it couldn't even muster the strength to test the 20-day moving average. So that's not a good sign. But again, there's still a chance that, you know, really the positive here for crypto is that everybody's so bearish that it's almost bullish. You know, like I was just saying earlier, it's almost, the fact that we rolled over the last 2 days on the spiders, it's almost a good thing, because there was too many bulls and bears agreeing on a rally. And I think that a lot of weak hands had to get flushed out. That's really the only positive I can make on Bitcoin right now. You're still, you know, you still have this green bar here. You still could put in a zigzag up, but it's going to have to shape up pretty soon. Overall, crypto remains weak until proven otherwise. All right, flipping back over here to the spiders, let's take a look here. So we're getting a nice bid here in the close. We could get some end of quarter shenanigans. Look at the UVXY taking a dump right here. That is back to the flat line. Let's look at the actual VIX here. Yep, up just 19 cents right now in the actual VIX. So if this turns negative, it could really juice up the markets. And if we get a strong close on the spiders, I wouldn't rule out a gap and go. And by strong close, I mean anything, you know, above 380.50. You know, any sort of green close really would really do it. I'm not sure if that happens. We still got 20 minutes left, but you know, we talked about these possible like WV patterns: Tesla, XBI, IGV, you know, Apple, Microsoft, Google. You know, there's a good chance we can put in these little zigzag up patterns. And like I said, I've worked out a cycle date. Have one coming up very shortly. It should be put in pretty soon. We are into the cycle window now, so I am expecting a move here. Nothing's really changed, but we'll see what we get. Again, it's end of quarter. Anything could really happen. But again, we'll just take it one day at a time and let the markets tell us a little bit more. Anyways, guys, gonna wrap it up here. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. Take care, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.